Joining us right now from Washington is former senior advisors to the Clintons, Stagwell Group president, managing partner, and Microtrends Squared author, Mark Penn. Mark, good to see you.
Good morning.
So you've worked on 6 State of the Union speeches. What do you want to hear or expect to hear from President Trump tomorrow night?
Well, remember, the State of the Union speech is sort of the Super Bowl of American politics. You've got 45 to 60 million people who tune in, and it's a chance not to really reinforce the base, but the president really has to reach out to those people. You know, he's got favorable personal approval ratings, 42 to 44. He's got to reach out to the next 6 or 10% of people with this speech. Otherwise, it's not going to do his presidency any good at all. So I think he's going to definitely go ahead and reinforce his record. He's got to reach out, I think, with those people who don't like him to show that he's not as reckless as they think, particularly on foreign affairs. And he's got to show that he's ready for bipartisan compromise on his issues. Those are the goals. And he's got to then not kill his message with tweets or talk anything about investigations.
Mark, I'll agree with you on him not killing his message with tweets, but I do have a question. I know you're saying the point of these is to reach across the aisle and get more people on board with his message, but traditionally we've seen that State of the Union addresses don't really have that much impact on public opinion. Do you think this president could be different because his approval ratings are low?
Well, I saw with President Clinton in '96, we had a tremendous impact, and I think laying down a marker like the era of big government is over had tremendous effect. So I disagree. I think most of them don't have much effect because they're consistent with everything the president has done. I think people are looking to see, after a year in the presidency, has Trump matured in a way that he can show? I think that was sort of the point of Davos. Or is he the Trump that people really don't like because he's too reckless, too divisive? And no matter how good the economy is, if he doesn't overcome being reckless and divisive, he can't get their support.
Mark, it's Dave McDowell. Is the president, though, and his message actually helped by the negativity that you hear from some of the Democratic leaders? The tisk, tisk, tisk finger wagging of Nancy Pelosi, talking about these bonuses as pathetic crumbs for the little people and the little pieces of cheese that people have gotten from big corporations. I think that really plays into the president's hands because it shows a complete disconnect. And as you've pointed out, the Democrats keep talking down the economy rather than trying to lift it up.
Well, look, I thought it was fascinating that Manchin came out and actually took Pelosi on. It's the first time I've seen that. It suggests he's running for re-election in West Virginia, and he means it. I think, look, I don't think the Democratic comments are neither here nor there. I think they see themselves as an opposition party when it comes to these issues, and I think they've successfully challenged Trump on health care and questioned his legitimacy as a president. And I think he's got to really give his response here that he is working as president, that he is working on behalf of people, that he is improving the economy. And that's what the battle is all about.
Yeah, but wait a second. I got to follow up here because don't you think that there's going to be some blowback here? The fact that not just is Nancy Pelosi out calling it crumbs and Armageddon, but we're actually seeing the impact of it. And you're seeing company after company, 200 plus, give out $1,000 bonus checks. You're seeing companies say, OK, we're going to earn much more than we thought, so we're going to cut prices. We're going to invest in our business. I mean, at some point, will the American people want answers to the fact that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in general did not vote for the tax plan? They voted no. And they shut the government down. I mean, do you think people are going to say, we're going to want answers going into November? Isn't this going to bite them for being resist, and not having a plan of their own?
Well, what we've seen in our polling is that attitudes towards the economy and optimism about it moved up about 5% in the last month. Attitudes towards the tax plan, only about a third were for it when it passed, moved to 47%. So we've seen a lot of movement in that. I think Trump's going to have an opportunity to try to push that further. Look, I agree. I always thought that some of the Democrats, particularly those in Republican states, should have voted for the tax measure, and that the tax measure is going to play likely to the advantage of the Republicans. But health care really is now the #1 issue. Remember, when you solve a problem, the American public doesn't look back, they look forward.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, health care is the #1 issue, and that's where Democrats have a big edge.
It'll be interesting to see what's more important going into the November midterms. Is it health care? Is it the more money in people's pockets?